Hello and welcome to another edition of Consensus with Canonizer. We're very glad to have you here. This is our second live stream. I am here, as always, with the Canonizer Council. I'm Jim Bennett. I'm here with Brent Alsop. Brent, how are you?
Good.
Kelly Cassidy is also here with his manly beard, looking rugged as always. And
Chicks dig it.
Chicks dig it. That's what I hear. And we also have not an expert here. How are you, not an expert?
Glad to be here.
Are we allowed to use your name, or is that too scandalous?
Oh,
All right. Well, if you want to reveal who you are at some point in the evening, they can all see your face, their facial recognition software and such. But we'll see what happens. No, so I thought our first live stream last time went really well. And I am very excited to go over the topics that we've got here tonight. We're going to go over a couple of topics. Brent, you've created a topic, and Kelly, you've created a topic that you both want to discuss. And as always, for those of you who are watching, the goal here is to build consensus on these topics. If you go to Canonizer, and I'm going to add there, you can see the featured topics there on the front page of canonizer.com. If you go there, you can see the topics we're going to discuss. You can go in and join a camp that best represents your point of view on the topics that are being discussed. And Kelly, well, Brent, let's start with you because you're just right below me in the screen here. So I don't want to skip over you. Kelly, can you bring up the topic that Brent wants to discuss?
Sure. Let me do that.
And take off my jacket on a live stream.
Is world's coin, world identity a good thing?
Yeah.
All right. Let's get this kicked off. Brent, can you describe what WorldCoin is? Sorry, I'm dying over here.
Yeah, WorldCoin is it's based on a cryptocurrency, a blockchain, to keep everyone's identity, and it has this orb biometric scanner that scans the retina of your eye, and so you don't need a password. So that your retina of your eye, your biometric identity is your identity, and if you and basically identity or provable identity, prove that you're human, is in the age of AI is just so critical. Because go to the Kelly, if you can go to the camp where it mentions some of the things. That guy there.
Okay.
Then and so you can. Yeah, if identity theft wasn't possible, then nobody could steal your money, and so it's all about identity. Someone couldn't take out loans in your name, and the reason there's a problem is because everyone demands privacy, and so there's no identity, and so anyone can just be anyone anytime they want. That's what's causing 90% of the problems in the world, and all that could be solved if everyone would just be willing to have an identity and let everyone know who they are. And the privacy experts, this is like, for example, in Spain or some European countries have outlawed this, and they hesitate to bring it into the United States because so many privacy experts are so against it. But anyway, it's because of the privacy experts that our lives are all heck. So that's my opinion. And I think if everyone understood what it was, and if everyone wasn't so fear-mongering and fearful, our whole lives would be. And also it's a justice thing, because to me, the privacy experts, they want to be able to slap you anonymously so that they can slap you again tomorrow and no one knows who's slapping them. And I just don't like anonymity, because to me that seems bad.
So when you say privacy experts, what are we talking about?
not privacy experts, but privacy opponents, I guess, or privacy
Advocates.
advocates. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Well,
But,
advocates of privacy.
yeah, advocates of privacy that want to outlaw WorldCoin because they collect too much biometrics and too much identity, and it makes it possible for everyone to track you. And it seems like to me that because sometimes people do bad things when they know someone's identity, and that's what we should be punishing. That should be outlawed, and there should be a police force that if you hurt someone by stealing their identity and stuff like that, you shouldn't take away people's identity, deny people the right to have an identity. But anyway, everything from sock puppets to voting to the world has just got all kinds of problems. And another thing I want to do is I would like to go into third world countries and on social media and connect up with people and get to know their lives and help give them funding and stuff like that. But you can't know if you're talking to a scam group or a robot and just giving money to a robot. And none of that is possible. Universal basic income, you have to have an identity to get universal basic income. There's just so many problems that you can't do without a good identity. And so WorldCoin is trying to solve that.
So what's the flip side to this? I mean, what would the people arguing against this say?
You need someone on the other camp.
Yeah, I might join another camp because it leads into mine. We're a skeptical people. I think that opening the door for a giant company to have access not to just name, passwords, but now biometric information is a bridge too far for me to cross right now. We have data breaches all over the place with everything. And now to say that now we're going to give biometric information to some company worries me.
Okay, so it's kind of a who watches the watchers sort of thing.
Yeah, that's what you need to do. Watch the watchers. Everyone should be a watcher, but someone should watch, including the watchers.
Well, but I mean, that's the challenge is that whenever you do something like this, you're giving or you're concentrating power in the hands of unelected, unaccountable people. But I mean, at the same time, I think every sort of leap forward technologically has involved something along those lines, right? The people who first registered URLs privately. I mean, there's still a registry somewhere that's privately owned, isn't it? Privately owned
domain names. Yeah, U.S. controls that.
Oh, so it's now a government agency because it wasn't initially.
Yeah,
not for domain names. Well, ICANN is an international nonprofit group.
Right.
And they authorize what are called TLDs or top level domains, which are usually private companies. So like .com is that's private. These TLDs are the ones responsible for their own policies of what they want for registration.
So, but that hasn't caused any major international incidents, has it? Has ICANN been a responsible steward of maintaining domain names?
That's an interesting thing. I am looking at some WorldCoin information. Maybe I could read this. This is from an MIT researcher who signed up for it, and I'm just going to read one paragraph. My investigation revealed wide gaps between WorldCoin's public messaging, which focuses on protecting privacy, and what I've experienced. We found that companies' representatives used deceptive marketing practices, collected more personal data than it acknowledged, and failed to obtain meaningful informed consent. So like it might be a good idea, but I'm worried that they're going about it the wrong idea, which is going to lead to more abuse.
I mean, going off that is it's even if the idea is sound and the technology is sound and open source and verifiable, the way it's being done right now is through this shady private company being spearheaded by Sam Altman, who is a really weird guy. Um, and there's not really any oversight to it. So maybe we can separate the technology from the administration of the technology.
So why is Sam Altman a shady guy?
I mean, that's mostly a personal opinion. So Sam Altman, for context, is also the CEO and one of the founding members of OpenAI. So
okay.
he's really in the news a lot for anything related to ChatGPT. He also is a huge proponent for universal basic income. When I say he's weird, it's just, again, that's a completely personal opinion. It's just the way he acts, the way he presents himself, some of his ideas about techno-futurism. He doesn't seem genuine. He seems like an evil person trying to pretend to be nice in a few ways, but again, that's just an opinion.
Well, Brent,
the conspiracies, I mean, come on, like Sam Altman AI, it's right in the name. Alternative man. You can't make this stuff up. The Illuminati confirmed.
I gotta agree with you. He reminds me a little bit of Mark Zuckerberg. You can't tell if it's a real person or a robot.
Brent, has any of this made you reconsider a little bit?
It's definitely educational to hear these other points of view. Yeah, but yeah, I'm a fan of Sam Altman. He's a futurist, a techno-futurist, and an extropian like I am, and believes in robots are going to save us all. But there's problems that need to be solved.
What is an extropian?
That has to do with a extropy and entropy. Entropy is, as the universe progresses, entropy increases, and extropy is, and as that increases, it drives extropy, which is the opposite of entropy. Extropy is the disorganization of everything, and entropy is the organization and progress of everything. So, like evolution and evolutionary progress, that's what extropy is. It's the opposite of entropy. Entropy is the dissolution of everything and the disorganization of everything. And so as that occurs, it drives extropy, transhumanism, basically.
Okay.
Huh.
Well, so if I were to create my own camp, because I think this is a good technology, I think this is helpful. I think there are times that it's appropriate to be anonymous. But it's amazing to me how many people use anonymity as an excuse to be rude or cruel.
Right.
And so creating something, I think it would be fun to create, social media sites, for instance, that demand that you verify your identity and that you don't use sock puppets. But people can then choose whether or not they want to participate in those social media platforms or in the current ones where you can have every sock puppet under the sun and you can scream at people without consequence, because I think people would gravitate toward
I agree.
one where everybody's accountable for what they say.
Yep.
Just going off that real quick, it's possible for a service to let you be completely anonymous, but also have your identity verified. And that kind of, and with the sock puppets, that goes right back to how we have Canonizer set up with our private nicknames, where we allow anyone to make an account. And once we have your account, we use that to verify who you are. And there's, problems with strict identity on that. But then you can choose whether or not your activities on our platform are anonymous.
Right.
One of the things that WorldCoin helps is to mitigate symbol attacks, which is when you have people making multiple identities to then be anonymous. The thing is that you can be anonymous and have your identity verified. Those are they're slightly different things.
Yeah.
But it starts opening up a few cans of worms though, because once you have the verification that you are who you say you are, or at least at the very least for WorldCoin, it's you are a unique individual who isn't a robot. Even if we don't know anything else about you, we at least know that much. There's a case to be made that services should then, like, to protect your anonymous activity in as time goes on. Once that identity is verified, they have to delete it in some way, and that has to be done responsibly. So in Utah, we were one of the first states to ban. I don't know if ban is even the right word. We were one of the first states to implement age limits or age restrictions on online pornography. As a result, some major pornography companies just stopped operating in our state entirely, like Pornhub. I'm definitely not an expert on this because I don't consume these services, so I'm not sure. But in order for a company to operate in our state of Utah, they have to now verify that you are authorized to use the service. So you need some service that proves that you're above the age of 18. And in order to know that you're above this age, you also have to know who are you and that you are who you say you are. So they've partnered with these third-party identity services where essentially you give them your license and all of your personal identifiable information. And then when you try going on to this pornography website and you make an account, rather than you giving this website your information directly, you just tell this identity service that they're allowed to tell this porn company that you are allowed or not allowed to use the service. That way, you're not going to get any data. That helps prevent data leaks and having blackmail events. Say a political figure is looking at some weird content on porn, and there's a data leak, and now we know that this political figure has some very weird porn interests. Because
it's never happened though. Nobody that would never happen.
Yeah, but like that's just the dynamics of separating out identity verification from authorization.
Yeah, it still worries me. Like, as an American, you well, it's not written out in the Constitution. It's always been implied, and the Supreme Court has viewed the First, Third, Fourth, Fifth, Ninth, and 14th Amendments to imply that you have a right to privacy from the government, which protects from government overreach, government limiting how police and other state actors can search, seize, and collect personal information, and to then voluntarily turn not just that over, but your biometric information worries me as a libertarian-leaning Republican.
Yeah. One of the good things about WorldCoin regarding the biometric information is they actually don't have any. So on the technological side, the way that the orb works is that it scans your iris and it makes a unique number based on features of your iris. But that number, you can't replicate anything from that number. It's like it's actually really similar to, let's see, Disney parks and Universal parks. They actually just switched off from this technology recently. But what they used to do to verify that a ticket holder is one person, so you're not buying a season pass and then giving it to someone or selling it, is that they had these fingerprint readers that you had to register your fingerprint when you got your ticket. And then when you use the ticket, you have to scan your fingerprint. But the reality is that they don't have your fingerprint information. It's just the computer's looking at your fingerprint. It's looking at a few features and it's generating a number between like 1 and 20. And as so long as you have a fingerprint whose features, when ran through that algorithm, make that same number, then you're good. But that number itself is not your fingerprint.
I might be changing my mind because I'm doing this right now with the TSA. When I get on planes, I have TSA pre-check, and they do eye scans now.
Mm.
So somebody's got my eye scan already. I might be accepting you, Brent. I might be coming to your way of thinking. We have a
Kelly,
consensus.
who is it? Who has your eye scan? Is it the government or is it some contracted company?
That's a very good question, and maybe I should have thought more about it. I've got family members and friends who won't do DNA tests because they don't want to have their DNA out in the public.
Yeah, that's
And like I understand where they're coming from, but I've done that too. So I've got my biometric information in multiple places now. What the heck? There is nothing private anymore.
Well, Kelly, let's can you refresh that page in terms of consensus tree, because you've added a camp and I just added a camp. And
Yep.
so let's see where, as we sort of conclude the discussion on this, see where the topics are. So yes, everyone should promote this is Brent's camp. I just added the oversight is important camp. And Kelly, that looks like that's your count. It sounds interesting, but I worry about personal privacy.
Yeah.
But you're now thinking of switching to Brent's camp.
I am considering it. It might be next week, though.
yeah.
All right. Well, so before next week, can you give us a preview of the topic you've been working on this week?
Absolutely. And it kind of goes with what I'm talking about here. And that is, why is there so little trust in public institutions? Stand by one. And I've called it, we are a nation of skeptics. Recent polling has come out, both 2024 and then now in 2025, that shows how little faith we have and trust we have in public institutions, not just government, but everything from religion to banks to public schools. Currently, only 27% of Americans trust their banks. Only 30% of Americans trust the Supreme Court, down from 50% in 2002. The military is still trusted, so good for them, but it's fallen 20%. Trust in churches has fallen almost in half, from 60% to 32%. And trust in Congress in 2024 was 9%.
Who are those 9%? That's my question.
Yeah, like how could anybody
Congress
trust
know?
in that?
Yay, that's what I like.
Hey, Kelly, what does it mean here to trust, like in Congress specifically?
I think it means that you have faith and confidence. And I can read what Gallup wrote, but it's officially confidence in institutions. And the question they asked was, I'm going to read you a list of institutions in American society. Please tell me how much confidence you yourself have in each one. And then that number that I've written is the number of people that have a great deal of confidence or quite a lot of confidence in those institutions.
So what's your solution? What's your camp say?
Well, the camp says, I believe, let's go look at it here, that rebuilding trust starts with the media, or Congress needs to lead in building trust, because those are two of the organizations whose trust has plummeted the lowest. I think, I'm trying to find the exact number, but if you look at television news, their number is right around that of Congress. Although I'm looking at right now, and it is just barely higher. So if you look at, I haven't supported one yet, but I'm leaning towards rebuilding trust needs to start with the media. And let me show you what that one is. What I'm proposing here is that the media, as America's great fourth wall of government, needs to do a better job of being unbiased in reporting. I was looking at something recently, and you'll love this, Jim, because of your political views, of a PBS report that they did in a fact-checking report. And it was in last year during the election. And they came up with 144 things that Donald Trump said was wrong and factually untrue in the course of an hour interview. And I wrote a couple of them down. Oh, I'm sorry. It was 100. It's titled 162 Lies and Distortions in a News Conference. NPR fact checks former President Donald Trump. And Donald Trump said, for example, I think our country right now is in the most dangerous position it's ever been from an economic standpoint. And they said that is factually untrue, which it might be untrue if it wasn't somebody's opinion. Now, you could say, the opinion of other leaders says it's different than that, but not that Donald Trump, the Republican candidate for president, has lied 162 times, including that one. He said Kamala's record is horrible, and that she's a radical left person at a level that nobody's seen. They called that untrue.
It is untrue.
Well, I don't think that is untrue. I think that's somebody's opinion that you can make a darn good case that she had a horrible record and that she's a radical left person.
No. So this is the problem, and I'm creating a new camp because it's one thing to say you think her record is horrible. That is a matter of opinion. It is another thing to say it is the worst, most left-wing record in history. Because
she did not say that at this point. She said, fortunately, she said,
one has ever seen before.
She's a radical left person level that nobody's seen. That's
a verifiable statement. There are a whole lot more radical leftist people
that've been vice president and running for president that were the nominees for president.
Bernie Sanders is certainly more left wing than Kamala Harris.
But was he the nominee for president of the Democratic Party?
You are adding qualifiers.
No, I'm not. They have put these in, and like they're not okay. How about this one? This one they said Rasmussen came out today. We are leading. They said no, you're not. It's a tie. But he went on to win the election. Like, how can you say that was a lie when a month later he won? They said
because you know as well as I do that a poll is a snapshot. Because when he says that at the time. He's trying to say the Rasmussen poll shows me leading, and it didn't. The Rasmussen poll showed a tie, and
no, Jim, it showed a statistical tie. He was ahead.
Okay,
in that Rasmussen poll, but they said that was a lie because it was a statistical tie. They said that he said things about Joe Biden being not able to lead the country. And they said that was a lie because he was energetic and he was the president. And now, 8 months later, we're finding out everybody in his office is now writing books about, and every person in the media is writing a book saying, "Oh, we should have seen this, but we had no idea that he wasn't at his full mental capacity." So, like just to say that it's untrue. And say 162 times when their opinions and when they've turned out to actually be true is just balderdash.
I have just created a new camp, and my camp's title is "A Fundamentally Dishonest President Has Destroyed Trust." Because
now that could be true, except this has been dropping since 2002 when they first did the poll. So we've been through 8 presidents. Congress has been this low for a long time. The media has been this low for a long time. And so now to say that it's all one president's fault does not go with the data.
Well, see now, what you're doing now is citing data to say that my opinion is incorrect. When
I'm saying that
the same thing with you. You were saying no, he's allowed to say things that go against the data if it's his opinion.
In 2000, oh no, Jim, I'm not. I'm saying that you've made this a factual argument, and I'm saying that that's not supported by the data. In 2009, 51% of Americans supported or had faith in the presidency. In 2022, 23% had faith in the presidency, which means, yes, if you're saying that's true, Joe Biden is a horrible president who caused the collapse of public trust in the presidency. So I guess I will agree with that.
So one of the thing that I think has been the most destructive consequence of Trumpism and Donald Trump is the ability to silo ourselves in different factual realities. It began in 2016. You remember when Kellyanne Conway started talking about alternative facts?
Sure.
Right at the outset of Trump's 2016 presidency, the first thing he had his press secretary, Sean Spicer, do was walk out and say, this was the largest crowd that ever attended any inauguration ever. And because Donald Trump was furious when everybody was rightfully reporting how much bigger the crowd was for Barack Obama's first inauguration than it was for Donald Trump's inauguration. It was just a matter of fact. They had pictures, they had records, and yet Donald Trump doubled down over and over again, refused to concede it. Just this last weekend, he was talking about how Terry Moran told him, well, now that you've won the presidency twice, and Donald Trump corrected him, no, 3 times. I've won it 3 times. And Terry Moran says, you didn't win in 2020, and he still won't give that up. And you look at the insurrection, and you look at the people who died. You look at Ashley Babbitt, who got shot because she refused to back down as she was pressing the factually incorrect statement that Donald Trump had won an election that he'd lost, and she gave her life for a falsehood. I mean, this is the thing that drives me crazy.
And Jim, I hate to interrupt you, but I'm going to interrupt you because you're kind of missing the point that this has been going on. Again, if you can pick Donald Trump and say that's the cause of it, but the data doesn't support that. At his lowest, Joe Biden was lower in the Gallup survey. But I'm gonna skip past that and say, for the media, for example, COVID-19 origins. It's now been pretty much established, I believe universally, that it was a Wuhan lab leak. That if you said that on the media, even a year ago, you were branded as some sort of whack job. That it was sorely discredited that it was a Wuhan lab leak. The January 6th insurrection, I'll just point that out too. The FBI reported into that it was not an insurrection. It did not meet the qualifications for an insurrection. Biden's fitness for office, illegal immigration. If you look at headlines and news reports for the last 2 years, immigration was fine. There was nothing going on at the border, except I think Fox News would report that there was X number of people, and every other news channel said that's untrue. The border is secure and it's safe.
That's not true.
I believe that is true.
See, this is the difficulty that we have now, because I think, you and I, we're not too far apart in age, but I remember growing up in the Reagan era and listening to Rush Limbaugh throughout the 90s talking about Bill Clinton. Even back then, we shared a common set of facts. We didn't like what Bill Clinton was doing, but we acknowledged what reality was.
Well, I acknowledge that Bill Clinton did a great job.
I mean, we no longer share a common set of facts with most of Donald Trump's supporters. I mean, you can cherry pick things where the media had gotten things wrong, but that's very different from being deliberately dishonest. I mean, Donald Trump went out, and Donald Trump has been ordered 9-0 to facilitate the return of a guy without due process who was sent to an El Salvadoran prison for the rest of his life.
Except twice. See, but Jim, I'm going to interrupt because he was ordered by court to be deported
on his fist. Donald Trump responded to that by showing a fake photoshopped image to say, see, this guy deserves to be where he is. And when Terry Moran this last weekend pointed out to him that that picture was photoshopped and that was not a factually correct statement, Donald Trump refused to back down and then told Terry Moran what a terrible, awful reporter he was, and went off to live in his own universe where a fake picture is in fact a true picture and where false reality is true reality. Yeah,
except the picture was true, and it was photoshopped to show the meaning of the symbols that the police had put on to show what those symbols meant.
The Photoshop, Donald Trump, first of all, doesn't understand that. Donald Trump,
I believe he does.
S13 on the man's knuckles. As he was talking to Terry Moran, he was saying it said MS13 on the knuckles. Terry Moran pointed out that was a Photoshop picture. Now, if you want to say it was Photoshopped legitimately, that's fine. The fact of the matter is Donald Trump doesn't understand that. And Donald Trump, I mean, I go back to right after when he first started running. One of the first things that Donald Trump said was, I remember right after 9/11, when there were Muslims all over buildings in New Jersey dancing on the rooftops, celebrating the falling of the Twin Towers. And everybody pointed out to him that did not happen, that could not have happened. And Donald Trump still refused to back down from that. And still just insisted.
I'm going to agree with everything you say. But so how do we get to the point where we all have faith in anything? Let's rise above the presidency. How do we have faith in the media? How do we have faith in the Supreme Court? How do we have faith in Congress? How do we have faith in the police? How do we have faith in churches? Or is it better to not have faith in any of these organizations because Donald Trump's an idiot?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if we're going to try to establish faith in public institutions, when the head of all public institutions, or at least the head of government, who is essentially, well, that's another story. But when the head of government gives a large chunk of the populace permission to live in an alternate reality, I mean, you listen to his Health and Human Services Secretary talking about things that are absolutely factually untrue about public health. When you have that kind of permission, then everything you're doing on the margins, I mean, I guess if you're dealing with religious institutions or dealing things outside the scope of government, maybe you have a chance. But when you're dealing with all of the institutions that you've mentioned, the Supreme Court, Congress, police, public schools
are now have confidence of 29% of Americans in 2024.
The president has dismantled the Department of Education and he's trying to take away tax
Jim, hold on. Back off. This was before he was president.
Okay, all right. Okay, so I'm not trying to assign all blame for the total erosion. I'm trying to say that it is impossible. If your question now is not who started it, I mean, this is a little like, my mother.
How do we solve it?
You cannot solve it as long as the president of the United States gives roughly half the country permission to live in an alternate reality with a different set of facts.
So you're saying that Joe Biden is responsible because he was not capable of running the country.
Responsible, Kelly. What I give a shit about is the fact that it is not solvable until you hold the president of the United States accountable for saying things that are not factually correct.
So every president.
No, this is not normal. This is not there. Every president has been bad to some degree or another. No other president has given permission to all of his followers to believe in a fantasy world that bears only a cursory resemblance to the real one. Now,
So, like all those that believed that Joe Biden was leading the country when he was obviously mentally incapacitated, and it's been repeated now by many of his staff. So he was not to be believed, and so he's responsible. But let's look at the good news. People still believe in small business.
Well, all right. Well, so I think that's where we end it. We have consensus that people still believe in small business. Canonizer is a small business, and we hope everybody watching will participate in our small business. Add your position to to the camps that best represent your point of view. But that's what we're here for. We are trying to find consensus among difficult topics. This has been a bit of a difficult topic, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was a heated one. It was fun.
It was fun. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate it. Mark,
I've learned more about your positions, and I think that makes the world a better place.
Yeah.
And that's what Canonizer can do. Is if you can talk to people about subjects, then you can get to know more about them and you find out we're not so different.
Yeah.
Oh, I think we are, but that's another story altogether.
Yeah.
So thanks very much, and thank you all for watching. Anybody have any parting thoughts before we sign off? So with that, we will end this, and we look forward to seeing you next week in our live stream of Consensus with Canonizer.
Peace out.
Peace out. And I don't know how to do the outro.
Looks like we lost Jim.
All right. Well, goodbye, everybody.
No, wait,
Yeah.
there's an outro. I'm trying to do the outro. I did this before. Dag nabbit. All right, it's just you and me, Mark.
We're still live, by the way.
Oh, goodbye.